Ever since I could remember, it felt like my parents had a secret rule. My younger sister and brother were their favorites, and I was just there. I would wake up before sunrise, juggling 2 jobs to cover my college fees, paying for books, lab equipment, and tuition, while my siblings got everything handed to them without a second thought. A brand new car for my sister's birthday, a luxurious trip for my brother, electronics, gadgets. Anything they wanted seemed effortless for my parents to provide. Meanwhile, I drove the old, dented truck my grandpa had given me, barely keeping it running. Some nights, I'd park it outside their house and just sit, staring at the driveway where my siblings' shiny cars gleamed under the streetlight. I love my family, but there was this gnawing feeling in my chest. My efforts, my sacrifices, they didn't seem to matter. I was invisible, a ghost in my own home. Yet there was one person who noticed me. Grandpa. He wasn't just kind, he understood me. When I worked with him on real estate projects, he treated me like a partner, not a child. He listened to my ideas, challenged me, taught me everything he knew about property, investments, and negotiations. "You have a mind for this, kid. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise," he'd say, his eyes twinkling with pride. Helping him wasn't easy. Between late-night classes and double shifts, I spent hours digging into blueprints, analyzing contracts, inspecting properties, and learning the ins and outs of the business. But every effort felt meaningful because for the first time, someone saw me. Someone cared about my hard work, my dedication, and my potential. And I secretly cherished those weekends, long hours, and even the small arguments we had over project details. They reminded me that I was capable, respected, and valuable. Even with all that, my parents remained oblivious. Family dinners were awkward. My mom would gush about my sister's latest promotion. My dad would brag about my brother's car or how much money he had saved for him, and I would quietly sip my drink, forcing a smile. I tried to voice my concerns once, cautiously saying, "I've been working hard too." My father waved me off. "Don't worry about it. You'll understand when you're older." I did understand. I understood that no matter how much I gave, no matter how hard I worked, their love was rationed, reserved for my siblings. It was humiliating, frustrating, and yet I didn't complain. I swallowed the disappointment and buried it under determination. The one place I felt truly at home was with Grandpa. One evening, while reviewing a large real estate contract together, he paused and said, "You know, when I'm gone, not everything I've built will go to those who just take for granted. Some things are for the ones who work for them, the ones who understand value." His words struck me in a way nothing else had. He didn't have to say my name, but I knew exactly what he meant. I felt a spark of hope, a flicker of anticipation, because for the first time, I realized my worth wasn't invisible. Grandpa had been watching, learning, and planning in secret, and I could sense that one day, the scales would tip in a way no one expected. For now, I kept working, kept learning, kept pushing through exhaustion, all while my family remained blind to the truth of what my grandpa saw in me. Grandpa had always been quiet about his wealth, never flaunting the properties he owned or the deals he made. To my parents and siblings, he seemed like a simple, kind old man, generous in small ways, but unassuming. But I knew better. Every time we visited a construction site or a property he had invested in, he spoke with authority, negotiating like a seasoned tycoon. He had a mind that could see potential where others saw rubble, a vision that turned empty lots into thriving buildings and abandoned houses into million-dollar estates. And all the while, he watched me closely, teaching me without anyone else noticing, trusting me with knowledge that even my parents didn't realize existed. One evening, as we went over blueprints in his study, he leaned back in his chair, a sly smile on his face. "You know," he began slowly, "when the time comes, not everyone will get what they expect. Some people take without earning, while others work quietly in the shadows. Life has a way of rewarding those who see beyond the obvious." I nodded, pretending not to be struck by his words, but inside, my mind raced. Could he be talking about me? Could he be planning something that would finally acknowledge all the years of work, sacrifice, and loyalty that had gone unnoticed? The thought made my heart pound. Over the next few months, I noticed subtle changes. Grandpa began asking me to handle more responsibilities, managing tenant contracts, inspecting high-value properties, and even negotiating with contractors directly. Each time, he would watch me closely, offering advice only when necessary, letting me make decisions, and letting me succeed or fail on my own. It felt like a test, but a test built on trust rather than pressure. I realized he was preparing me for something bigger, something that no one else in the family could anticipate. My parents still ignored my achievements, praising my siblings openly, but Grandpa's quiet approval was more valuable than any recognition they could give. Then came the day he took me to his office, the one room in the old building filled with filing cabinets, stacks of documents, and a wall-sized map dotted with pins. "Look closely," he said, pointing to a property I had never noticed before. "This is more than just real estate. This is legacy, and one day it will be yours." He didn't explain fully, only letting me absorb the magnitude of his words. I realized he had been quietly arranging everything, his villas, investments, and assets, not for my siblings, but for me. I couldn't tell my parents or them. They would never understand, and they certainly wouldn't anticipate it. The secrecy thrilled me, but also terrified me. How could I keep this hidden while watching them live in arrogance, thinking they had inherited everything? In the months that followed, I continued to work with Grandpa, studying contracts, learning the intricacies of real estate, and assisting him in major projects that seemed impossible. The anticipation built slowly, like the tension before a storm. I didn't yet know the scale of what he planned, but I could sense that the moment of revelation would be monumental, so shocking that it would change everything, turning my family's assumptions upside down and leaving them speechless. Grandpa's quiet mentorship, his secret planning, and his unwavering belief in me had set the stage for a twist no one saw coming. The day Grandpa passed away felt like the world had paused. I sat in the hospital room, staring at the steady beep of the monitors before they finally went silent, my heart heavy with grief. He had been my mentor, my guide, the one person in my life who truly understood me. The emptiness he left behind was suffocating, but beneath the sadness, a strange sense of anticipation lingered, a feeling I couldn't quite explain. Grandpa had always hinted at a plan, at something waiting for the right person, and deep down, I suspected it was me. After the funeral, my parents and siblings gathered in the grand living room of his estate, whispering about what they would inherit. Their faces glowed with expectation, eyes scanning for the largest villas, the cars, and the investments they assumed were theirs. I watched quietly, keeping my expression neutral, while my siblings bragged about the life they expected to take for granted. The tension in the room was thick. I could almost feel Grandpa smiling somewhere in his final rest, knowing how wrong they all were. They didn't see me as the heir to anything. They never had. But Grandpa had seen something in me that they couldn't comprehend. Dedication, loyalty, and the patience to work quietly while others demanded recognition. A week later, the reading of Grandpa's will began. My parents and siblings were practically bouncing in their seats with excitement, whispering among themselves about which villas, luxury cars, and assets they would claim first. And then the lawyer cleared his throat, opening the envelope that held Grandpa's last instructions. The first surprise, my mom and dad were given a villa. My sister and brother each got luxury cars. They smiled, thinking they had guessed the entirety of the inheritance. But as the lawyer continued, the shock began to sink in. Every remaining asset, multi-million-dollar companies, vast real estate projects, and properties worth far more than they could imagine, was left to me. Silence filled the room, heavy and disbelieving. My parents' eyes widened. My siblings froze mid-breath. They had never anticipated this. I remained calm, though inside my heart raced. A mixture of validation, triumph, and gratitude surged through me. Grandpa had quietly observed years of hard work, ignored effort, and invisible sacrifice, and now, in his final act, he had ensured that justice was served in the most spectacular way. My siblings' envy was palpable. They whispered angrily, trying to rationalize the decision, but there was no explanation. Grandpa had planned this meticulously, making sure that those who deserved it most, the ones who had truly earned his trust and recognition, would inherit what mattered. As I walked out of the lawyer's office, the weight of responsibility settled on my shoulders. The company, the real estate projects, and the assets were mine to manage, mine to grow, mine to honor. Grandpa had left me a gift far beyond wealth. He had left me validation, trust, and the ultimate proof that dedication and quiet perseverance were more valuable than entitlement and favoritism. Outside, the sun was shining, but my family's faces were stormy with disbelief. For the first time, I realized how different life could be when justice, even if delayed, finally found its way. Grandpa's plan had succeeded, and everything I had worked for, everything he had taught me, was about to come alive. The moment sank in like a heavy fog. My parents, who had always acted as if my siblings were the only ones worth celebrating, stared at me in disbelief. My sister's mouth hung open. My brother's eyes darted between me and the lawyer as if trying to find a mistake, and my parents' faces twisted in a mixture of shock, anger, and confusion. "Wait, what? This can't be right," my dad muttered, voice trembling, while my mom clutched her hand to her chest, whispering, We thought everything would be ours." Their assumptions, their sense of entitlement, had completely blinded them. They hadn't realized that Grandpa had always watched quietly, measuring effort, loyalty, and character, and I had passed every silent test he had set for me. I stayed calm, letting the shock wash over them without a single reaction. Inside, though, my heart raced. I had spent years working hard, balancing college, double jobs, and real estate projects with Grandpa, all while my family treated my sacrifices as invisible. And now, finally, the scales had shifted. I could feel a quiet satisfaction, the kind that comes from years of perseverance being recognized in the most undeniable way. My parents shifted uncomfortably in their seats, glancing at my siblings, who were muttering about fairness and legacy, but I didn't respond. Grandpa's decision was clear, deliberate, and unchangeable. The room was tense, heavy with disbelief and subtle rage. My siblings tried to argue, their voices rising. "But Grandpa, we thought," my sister stammered. My brother pointed at the documents, shaking his head. "This isn't how it's supposed to work." But I remained silent, letting their frustration speak for itself. Their reaction only reinforced what I already knew. They had never earned anything through effort. They had assumed that wealth, love, and recognition were automatic. Grandpa, in his wisdom, had given them lessons wrapped in shock, showing them that life rewards those who work, struggle, and persevere, not those who take for granted the sacrifices of others. I finally spoke, voice calm but firm, letting every word carry weight. Grandpa knew who worked hard, who cared, and who understood value. This isn't about favoritism. It's about recognizing effort and responsibility. I saw the realization, or at least the grudging understanding, begin to flicker in their eyes, though pride and envy clung stubbornly. Inside, I felt a mixture of relief and empowerment. Years of invisibility, of silent labor and sacrifice, had been validated in a way that no argument or protest could overturn. Grandpa had ensured that I, the one who had truly understood and respected his vision, would inherit not just wealth, but trust and responsibility. As the conversation ended and my family tried to process the shock, I sat quietly, thinking of Grandpa. His foresight, his careful planning, and his unwavering belief in me had orchestrated this moment perfectly. While they fumed and whispered, I felt a deep, satisfying calm. Everything I had worked for, everything Grandpa had taught me, was finally recognized. And now, with his legacy in my hands, I knew that my life, and theirs, would never be the same again. The day after the will reading, I began stepping into my new reality. Grandpa had left me $1 million company, multiple high-value real estate projects, and assets beyond what I could have imagined. My parents and siblings were still reeling from the shock, unable to grasp that their assumptions about inheritance had been completely wrong. While they sulked, whispered, and plotted excuses, I rolled up my sleeves and started working. The first property inspection was eye-opening, a sprawling villa Grandpa had built with precision and foresight. Walking through it, I could see the attention to detail, the careful planning, and the potential for growth. It was more than a house. It was a lesson in strategy and vision, something Grandpa had always shared with me quietly. I called my first board meeting for the company, and as I sat at the head of the table, The senior managers gave me cautious looks. They had expected someone else, my parents, or even my siblings' influence through connections. But here I was, the rightful inheritor, confident and prepared. I outlined my plans clearly, reviewing projects, improving management efficiency, and growing the company's real estate portfolio. Everyone listened in silence, some surprised, some skeptical. I knew the coming weeks would test my ability to not only manage the assets, but also prove that I was worthy of the trust Grandpa had placed in me. Meanwhile, my parents and siblings struggled to hide their envy. They would hover around the office, pretending to offer advice, but their intentions were transparent. Each time they asked questions, I responded calmly, politely, but firmly, demonstrating that I wasn't someone to be underestimated. Every move I made, from reviewing contracts to visiting construction sites, was a silent message. Grandpa had chosen wisely, and their assumptions about entitlement were wrong. I could see the frustration building in their faces, but I kept my focus on the work, on honoring Grandpa's vision, and on making smart decisions that would grow the empire he had entrusted to me. I also began assisting on major real estate projects, working hands-on with contractors, tenants, and architects. It was exhausting, balancing my studies in civil engineering with real-life corporate responsibilities, but it was invigorating. Every decision I made had immediate consequences, and I thrived in the challenge. I could feel Grandpa's influence in every plan, every blueprint, and every negotiation. My parents, meanwhile, were left with luxury cars and a villa, but they had no idea how to handle what really mattered: the vast, intricate network of assets and companies that Grandpa had entrusted to someone who had truly earned it. By the end of the month, the results began speaking for themselves. Properties were running efficiently, contracts were optimized, and the company was growing under my leadership. My siblings and parents watched, astonished, unable to deny the competence and vision that Grandpa had nurtured in me. Their envy was now tinged with respect, though silently, because they had never expected the quiet, hard-working child to emerge as the rightful heir. Grandpa's plan had worked perfectly. He had given me not just wealth, but validation, authority, and the ultimate proof that diligence and loyalty always outweigh entitlement. As weeks passed, the atmosphere at home grew tense. My siblings, who had always been spoiled and coddled, struggled to accept the reality that I now controlled the empire Grandpa had built. My sister would glare at me during family dinners, her voice dripping with false sweetness whenever she asked, "So, how's the company doing now?" My brother, normally loud and confident, began muttering under his breath about unfairness and how Grandpa could do this. My parents tried to maintain a neutral facade, but I could see the frustration in their eyes. They had never expected to be relegated to the sidelines, with nothing but a villa or a luxury car to remind them of Grandpa's generosity. Despite the tension, I remained calm, refusing to be drawn into petty arguments. I had spent years preparing for this moment without them noticing, and now it was my time to shine. I focused on my work, continuing to manage the real estate projects, learning to navigate high-stakes negotiations, and gradually expanding the company's reach. Each successful project and smart business decision fueled my confidence and made the envy around me more visible. My siblings attempted to interfere occasionally, offering advice or questioning decisions, but every time, I handled it with quiet authority. It was a subtle reminder that Grandpa had chosen the right heir, and that the years of unseen effort had finally paid off. One evening, my sister tried a particularly bold move. She invited friends over, hoping to show off her luxury car and villa, thinking that flaunting her temporary wealth would make me uncomfortable. I watched them parade through the living room, smug smiles plastered across their faces, and I felt a flash of amusement. Grandpa's real estate empire was far beyond their imagination, and no amount of cars or villas could compare to the responsibility, knowledge, and power now in my hands. Quietly, I reviewed property contracts and upcoming project plans, knowing that in the long run, my siblings' temporary indulgences were meaningless compared to the lasting legacy I had inherited. Their envy and frustration began to escalate, and the tension reached a boiling point during a family gathering. My parents tried to lecture me about family priorities, my sister snapped about favoritism, and my brother accused me of taking everything for myself. I stayed calm, letting their words hang in the air like smoke, while silently recalling Grandpa's guidance. This is exactly what he intended, I thought, to let them see that true value isn't measured in material indulgence, but in effort, wisdom, and responsibility. The realization hit me fully. Grandpa hadn't just given me wealth, he had given me patience, strategy, and foresight, turning every act of envy into a lesson in humility for my family. By the end of the week, my siblings' attempts to undermine me grew weaker as they realized they couldn't match the skill, knowledge, and foresight Grandpa had cultivated in me. They were left with envy, frustration, and grudging acknowledgement, while I quietly grew stronger, more confident, and more capable. Grandpa had built an empire, and through his guidance, he had prepared me not just to inherit it, but to master it. The tension in the house remained, but it now served as a constant reminder of the victory I had earned and the legacy I was determined to uphold. As I fully stepped into my role, the scale of Grandpa's empire became even more evident. The company wasn't just about villas and luxury properties. It was about entire neighborhoods, commercial complexes, and high-profile real estate developments worth millions. With Grandpa's guidance fresh in my mind, I began taking on larger projects, negotiating contracts with investors, contractors, and city officials, and implementing changes that increased efficiency and profitability. Every decision I made reflected the lessons he had quietly instilled in me over the years: attention to detail, patience, strategic thinking, and the courage to take calculated risks. It wasn't long before my accomplishments began drawing attention beyond the family. Local newspapers reported on the revitalization of neglected properties, praising the innovative approach that had transformed them into thriving, high-value spaces. Business journals highlighted my leadership, the sharp strategies I implemented, and the rapid growth of the real estate portfolio. My parents and siblings watched in stunned silence as outsiders recognized what they had ignored for years: that the quiet, hardworking child, one they had overlooked, was now running a multi-million-dollar company and executing massive real estate projects with skill and vision. Even within the company, I gained respect and recognition. Senior managers, who had initially doubted my abilities, now saw my guidance and advice. Contractors followed my plan meticulously, trusting in my knowledge. Tenants began praising the improvements in the organization I had brought to properties. Every success further reinforced my position and Grandpa's wisdom in choosing me as the rightful heir. Meanwhile, my parents and siblings continued to struggle with their feelings, envy, disbelief, and a reluctant acknowledgement of my capabilities. But I focused on progress, knowing that actions, not arguments, would prove the truth. A particularly significant project came when I was assigned a multi-million-dollar redevelopment of a neglected urban block. I poured my knowledge, energy, and vision into it, personally overseeing every stage, from planning to construction. The result was transformative. Dilapidated buildings became vibrant residential and commercial spaces, boosting the local economy and earning accolades from the city council. It was a visible testament to Grandpa's mentorship and the trust he had placed in me. My family could no longer claim ignorance or misunderstanding. My competence and dedication were undeniable. As word spread, my parents' frustration became harder to conceal. They would make casual comments in public, attempt to undermine my authority subtly, or question minor decisions. But every effort backfired. I had mastered Grandpa's strategies, learned the art of patience and foresight, and built a reputation that could not be shaken. The respect and recognition I gained were not just about wealth. They were about vision, responsibility, and merit. Grandpa's plan had worked perfectly. I had inherited not just assets, but the skills, reputation, and authority to lead, leaving my parents and siblings awestruck and humbled. By the end of the year, the empire had grown even stronger. My projects were shaping the city, and recognition poured in from every corner. Grandpa's legacy lived on, magnified through my efforts. The world saw what my family had ignored for years. The eldest child, overlooked and underestimated, was now unstoppable, proving that hard work, loyalty, and patience always outlast entitlement and favoritism. By now, the transformation was undeniable. The empire Grandpa had built was thriving under my guidance, And every project I touched reflected not only his vision, but the knowledge, dedication, and skill he had instilled in me. My parents and siblings could no longer ignore it. They watched as I negotiated high-stakes deals with confidence, turned neglected properties into thriving hubs, and earned accolades from investors, city officials, and even the media. Their envy and disbelief had reached a boiling point, but this time, there was nothing they could do to diminish my achievements. Grandpa had given me the ultimate proof that hard work and loyalty outweigh favoritism and entitlement. The emotional climax came during the annual company gala, a prestigious event celebrating our biggest projects. Investors, business leaders, and media representatives were all present, applauding the transformation of entire neighborhoods, the thriving commercial complexes, and the impressive growth of our real estate portfolio. My parents and siblings attended, silently seething, dressed in their finest, trying to project calm while watching me receive recognition and accolades. My speech was simple but heartfelt. I spoke about Grandpa, his mentorship, and the lessons he had quietly imparted over the years. I could see their faces twist with conflicting emotions, pride, envy, and shock. For the first time, they realized that wealth alone was meaningless without vision, effort, and responsibility. Even outside the gala, the proof of my success was everywhere. Construction sites were flourishing, new tenants moved into the redeveloped properties, and city officials personally thanked me for my contributions. My parents' villa and my siblings' luxury cars suddenly felt insignificant compared to the multi-million-dollar empire I now controlled. My siblings tried to challenge me once or twice. Small comments about fairness, subtle questions about decisions, but their attempts were feeble. Every move I made was precise, confident, and backed by knowledge and experience Grandpa had entrusted to me. The lesson was clear. Entitlement without effort could never match earned authority and competence. In private, I reflected on the journey that had brought me here. Years of hard work, 2 jobs, college struggles, and endless nights of assisting Grandpa had all been leading to this moment. His foresight, planning, and mentorship had ensured not only that I inherited his wealth, but that I was prepared to wield it wisely. My parents and siblings could no longer dismiss my worth. Grandpa's plan had exposed the truth. Dedication, loyalty, and patience always triumph over greed, favoritism, and entitlement. The ultimate victory wasn't just financial, it was emotional and moral. I had proven my worth to myself, honored Grandpa's legacy, and shown my family the real value of effort and perseverance. The empire was mine to grow, to protect, and to build upon, and I knew that Grandpa had chosen wisely. As I stood in the office overseeing ongoing projects, I felt a quiet, deep satisfaction. My family's realization, the awe of others, and the tangible results of years of hard work created a sense of fulfillment no one could take away. Grandpa had left me more than wealth. He had left me power, respect, and the ultimate triumph over neglect and favoritism.